You were listening to the You Gotta Laugh podcast.
Sure.
With your boy Edgar Robledo.
Turn it up. Turn it up. Turn it up.
What would you draw if you had to represent time? And a lot of people, they draw the same thing. They would say, the majority of people, they would draw a line, and they would draw a little baby, and then they would draw a teenager and an adult, and then, mid-30s, and then, and then they would draw old man. So they view, the majority of the people that I ask this question, they view time as a timeline.
Yes, they do. They don't see that. They're saying, okay, I think the line comes from the line is like an easy way to represent it. So
is it the equivalent of the Big Bang, do you think? Because it starts from left to right.
Yeah, they always try to do it from the left to right. I mean, there is other cultures that, of course, write from right to left, up to down, stuff like that. But when we think about it, we could, whether it be left to right or right to left or up to down, one way, I think the way to really, that explains it scientifically, is forward, from the starting point forward. And that's the thing. It's not even from back to forward. It's sort of like, we got thrown in this and the clock is ticking. It's like a song I heard from Pink Floyd a long time ago where he said, no one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. And it's like life. We're just in it. And it's very weird. It's very weird. Everything is trying to get us not to think about that. Everything is just like, I guess whatever powers that be, concentrate on something that really doesn't have anything to do with understanding why you're here existence wise. Like, what is this and where you're going? So that's something they don't want you to think about. And that's very important. You start to wonder, they had to diminish that to say, no, it's nothing, man. You ain't going nowhere. You're just dirt. You're just atoms. And that formed by chance, and when you really look at it, you start to say, no, scientifically, that's like absurd.
Mm-hmm. A guy, I heard a quote where a guy was like, you telling me that this thing just happened is like telling me a tornado went through a junkyard, and then after it passed, there was a 747 Boeing jet there.
Yes, I've heard that. I think it might have been Francis Crick that might have said that. They were saying it's the likelihood of it, like happening that way is a tornado going through a junkyard and assembling the parts into a Boeing 747. And to make it even worse, is going through a junkyard that's not even a plane junkyard.
Right.
It's like, so now it makes it even more impossible.
Right. When I looked at that and I studied that, I'm like, that is so true.
Yeah.
That these things just formed out of nothing. And if it formed out of nothing, then who created nothing?
Exactly.
Like, where is that in time? Like, where is nothing in time? What's their relationship?
Yeah.
Crazy.
It really, it is just real deep stuff to be like, wow, what is this? But, something seems to just want to use us as a battery. People like being a battery. I mean, you look at the, even in the Einstein stuff, everything we've been told, it's like a lie. It's like a stage. Because even when you look into Einstein, you see stuff where you're like, wow, this is crazy, man. This was kind of like orchestrated and stuff. The theory of relativity, he tried to make it very materialistic, but I think it was a group of hippie scientists that brought it back to quantum science. I think kind of disproves Einstein's materialism. Because it says like they go into like consciousness, thought can change matter. And in a way it really can. Now we know thought can change matter in your body, and nobody takes that shit like a big thing. For a person to be more excited about some type of entertainment instead of the fact that you can think and create things in your body. We know for a fact you can raise levels of acidity in your stomach, getting upset. You can raise your blood pressure, all type of shit. The fact, like, holy shit, thoughts can affect my body. I can have changed things in there, just with a thought. And no, that's just totally overlooked. People want to know what's coming on TV tonight, or I got to go do some stupid shit.
Right. Where's the TV gone?
Yeah, and they'll be like, "Don't tell me my stupid shit is stupid, man. It's the most important thing in the world." And you realize that most people are going to live a life. They're living a life of desperation under the disguise of it not being desperation.
Wow. Oh, okay. Okay. If the past, the future, and the present exist all at once, right? That I think that was Einstein with the block theory, and not the string or the rope hanging out. And there's a past on the rope, and there's a future on the rope, and then in the middle of the rope, that's where now is. Or some people don't want to believe that. Some people don't want to believe that you're going towards the future on this line, on this linear line. So the theories of time travel, right? There's the fixed timeline, right? Which is seen in the movie The Terminator, the original Terminator, right? What was it? Sarah Connor, her son became like the lead of the resistance in the future. So in the movie, they sent Arnold Schwarzenegger back in time, right, to kill her so she wouldn't give birth to the child, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now then they sent, who was the guy? Reese?
Yeah, Reese.
Okay, so they sent Reese back, and they, I guess at some point they had a time travel machine. So he went back afterwards, I guess, to chase him or to look after her, and then that was it. So now in that scenario of the fixed timeline, like they were both gonna die in the past, right? Is that your understanding of it? Because they couldn't go, right?
Yeah. It really was a twist because it was saying that he was sent back in time to impregnate her so she could have John Connor, but he was sent back under the disguise of, at first it was, you're being sent back to save her. So if you save her from the Terminator's assassination, she'll live and have the kid. The twist, which would be John Connor, the twist was the fact that he was the guy that would impregnate her to become John Connor. So that creates a twist in it, and it makes you wonder. But it's they don't get into the mechanics of how you would get back in time. Of course, the computer figures that out. But I guess they figured out how to use the computer's technology. I think in one of the last, they got some really good clips of them invading Skynet, and then it's not in the Terminator movie series. I think it's like on some alternative stuff.
Okay.
Where they show, and it's really really good graphics. They show them invade Skynet, and as soon as they break down the grid, they get into the big area inside where the time machine is, and you see like the circular area where they launched Schwarzenegger in the first one. So the humans must have figured out how to work that, and that's where they sent Reese back into time.